Let's do a little astrology, business, finance, money talk just for a second here. I think this is a very important topic that a lot of people kind of overlook and don't really dig as deeply as they should into their chart when they're talking about money or how they can gain more financial stability in their life. So I'm not one of the pop astrologers that is going to just tell you to look and see what the sign position of your Venus or your Jupiter placement is when it comes to money and finance, because astrology is obviously a lot deeper than that. So hopefully a lot of you know that already. We have to incorporate everything. I'm also not the astrologer that is going to tell you just to strictly look at the sign and the house position. Of course, these things are important, but we have to take everything in the entirety of the chart into consideration. There is always going to be dispositors for each planet. Of course, you can disposit something up to 2. Some astrologers will disposit something up to 3 times. But let's just take an example of a chart. Let me pull one up for you real quick. All right, so this is going to be fun. This is a chart of a famous person. I'm not going to tell you guys who it is, but if you guys want to guess who this is, leave a comment down below. I'd be really curious to know if you guys know whose chart this is. So it is a famous person. I will give you that, and I will tell you it's a female. So that's the only clues I'm going to be giving you. It's a famous female. But so as far as finance, when we're talking about finance, I cover this in my personal astrology readings. One of the first things, it's not the only thing I look for, is going to be, I'm going to be looking at the second house. Now, there is a combination of things. As I mentioned, I'm going to be looking at a combination of usually the 2nd, the 6th, and the 10th houses. Of course, the MC can correspond to the 10th house, and the MC is something, the MC and the 10th house are going to be something that we want to look at as well. But as far as strictly money, finance, our possessions, or the things that we earn for ourselves, we're going to be looking at the 2nd house. So that's what we're going to be focusing on today. So as you can see, this person is a Gemini rising. That makes their 2nd house ruled by the sign of Cancer. Cancer starts this person's 2nd house at, I'm just trying to read that, 5 degrees and 54 minutes of Cancer. So what is the ruling planet of Cancer? The moon. So we're going to look for the moon in this person's chart. The moon is over here in this person's 7th house, and it is also conjunct to Neptune. So the moon is at 0 degrees of Capricorn, conjunct to Neptune, which is at 26 of Sagittarius, close to the south node, also in the 7th house at 20 degrees of Sagittarius. Now, the person that this chart belongs to, it could be said that this person makes their money or has made their money or did make their money by the ruling planet of the moon, which is in their 7th house. Now, the 7th house corresponds to other people in our lives, usually our one-on-one relationships. It can correspond to Libran energy. So this can be romantic partnerships. Oftentimes we find it marriages, romantic partnerships, or anything. Usually the 7th house is when relationships progress into some form of commitment. It's not really fun and pleasure and dating that you find in the 5th house. But this can be business partnerships, but it's usually our one-on-one connections. So it is very possible that this person made their money through their connections with other people, whether that be business partners, romantic partners, marriage partners, etc. Now, it's also very interesting when we're talking about the aspects that the moon makes in this chart, because the moon makes a trine to Juno, which is in this person's 12th house in Taurus, and then it also makes a trine to Venus down here in the 4th house, and it makes a sextile to Saturn and Pluto, which are in the 6th house, it looks like. So just with the conjunction to Neptune in the 7th house, this is a very shadowy energy, a very Piscean energy. And the moon is in detriment in the sign of Capricorn, so this kind of gives the moon a disadvantage already. Now, I'm not saying this person didn't make a lot of money or didn't acquire a lot of possessions. Obviously, it's the chart of a famous person, so they did pretty well for themselves. But there is some shadow qualities or Neptunian qualities, and we know that Neptune and Pisces energy can be associated with like drug addiction or escapism, or just kind of living in la la land and not really being in this reality. A lot of times we can see that with those types of placements, especially with the moon conjunct to Neptune. So there's some sort of like emotional attachment to that feeling of escapism. I also find it interesting that it's trying to Juno in the 12th house. The 12th house, again, is kind of like a Piscean energy or a 12th house energy, for lack of a better term, but it can really lead to these feelings of isolation or loneliness. Juno is also the asteroid of marriage, so it's possible that this person could have felt this way with romantic connections, partnerships, or marriages, that they were involved in, but ultimately that could have aided them in being successful in their possessions or what they acquired as far as money, finances, and resources went. Neptune is also a planet that has to do a lot with like creativity, art. It can be film, it can be some sort of like musical talent. You know, I can kind of think of like people that perform on a stage or do something for the world to see as kind of like a combination of like Pisces energy and Leo energy. There's kind of a combination of the two, but the talent really comes from, or the talent for like film and the industry of music, or like the creative ability. I don't know. They're different types of creativity. That I more so relate to Pisces energy, if that makes sense. Although Leo energy is very creative too, but it's creative in a different way. It's more so like the performance aspect of it combined with creativity. That's a topic for another video, I guess. But that Neptunian quality is very much about being able to act or perform in a very mystical, creative way. And this could have been a way in which this person was able to emotionally, the moon, as well as Neptunian energy, emotionally connect with their art and connect to other people through what they were doing or performing. I'm trying not to give away too much of a hint on who this is. So it's like this emotional connection or this receptivity that they were able to portray to other people, where it felt like they were having a one-on-one connection with their audience. Even if that was somewhat dark, twisted, lonely, sinister, or, you know, the shadow side of Pisces, a very shadowy quality. This person's aura gave me a lot of Scorpio energy, but this person definitely is not a Scorpio. They do have Saturn in Scorpio. But this person's energy really gives off a combination of Pisces and Scorpio energy, but I am not going to give too much away. This person certainly was a performer, and we were talking about Leo energy, so I think it's appropriate because the moon does trine to Venus in Leo. This person has Venus and Mars in the sign of Leo down in their 4th house. And the 4th house is really about your internal emotions, how you feel, your family. It can be the home that you come from or the home that you make for yourself, but it's like very instinctual and natural for this person to be able to perform and be able to put their energy towards performance or being the center of the show. Venus is also a planet that can be associated with money, but again, I don't just look for the planet in a sign. I'm looking for an all-around context to the chart. But again, there is a connection between the ruler of the 2nd house, the moon, which is in the 7th, making a trine to Venus in the 4th. So it's possible that this person's children inherited the money that this person, you know, made from what they did or how they made their money. So if you guys have guesses on who this is, again, it is a famous person and it is a female, and I will tell you that they performed for people. So that's all I'm going to tell you. If you guys have guesses on who it is, leave it down in the comments below, and I will let you know through a video response if you are correct and who it is if nobody gets it right. So